Good evening, everybody, and good evening to our panelists today and guest Roopa Venkatkrishnan from Mumbai. Hello, Roopa. You are on mute, Roopa.
Very good evening, Brijesh, and thank you so much for calling me and share my success story. I don't know how. I've never changed anything. It's the same thing that I do for the last 20 years, and I want to share the same thing. So it's not going to be anything different.
You see, अमिताभ बच्चन या और कोई फेमस एंटिटी आता है ना शो पे तो आप उसको 1000 बार भी सुनते हो उसके बाद भी दोबारा आने से दोबारा फिर सुनते हो यू आर दैट पर्सनालिटी रूपा
come on, that's like you've given me a very big compliment. I don't think I've been that great, but I'll try and do what best I can share with everybody. So
you are, and
thank
like
you.
always, looking gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
And inspiring as always. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this show of Masterstroke again. And I hope all of you are safe and healthy. May I request our participants to please welcome Roopa on the chat box with your hi as well as the city from which you have joined in. Can we have some messages on the chat box to welcome Roopa? And we will very soon start some questions from Roopa to inspire us and to grow in this business. Roopa, you are very, very famous. Whenever I have been doing webinars, sometime I check with participants, whom should I call? And the first name, there are a few, and the first name that comes is Roopa Venkatkrishnan. And so here is the D-Day.
Oh, I'm overwhelmed.
Roopa is here. Okay. So let's start, and we will have some questions which I have framed for Roopa, and I will also have some of the participants ask you questions. If you have any question after the presentation, after the show, please do ask on the chat box, and we may allow some people to even raise their hand and speak to Roopa directly if you have any particular question with Roopa. Okay. So Roopa, my first question to you, there are people at 1 crore, there are people at 10 crores of AUM, there are MFDs at 100 crores. And here today we are sitting with an MFD who alone manages over 1,000 crores. And now you have moved to Sapient, merged with Sapient, which is a much bigger entity. But let's talk about, you are one of the largest MFDs in India, managing almost an over 1,000 crore. If I were to ask you, what is the one single success mantra of yours, what it will be?
Brijesh, thank you for asking me this question. And I'm sure I've been asked this question a lot of times. And in fact, you won't believe yesterday night I've slept at 2 o'clock because I was preparing myself for what I have to speak today.
Oh my God.
And I basically, so success for me is very subjective. Okay. We relate success to numbers. So in our case, it's AUM. But for me, success is the innermost want and desire of each individual about what he or she wants to do and what is the objective that we bring in on the table. Second, I think I literally have no sense of competition. Okay. But I have faith in my work ethics. Second, when we talk about work, it's what I realize is empathy, mutual respect, a shared sense of mission, where critical ingredients are brought in the relationship with my clients. I think those are important aspects I look at when I look at the journey of my wherever I've reached. I think from the beginning, it was never about transactions. It was always about relationship, because gathering, deploying, and retaining assets, it ought to be intensely relationship oriented. And to sum up to all your questions, I think when I started my journey, I was never worried about success, but always focused on the work towards being significant in my client's life. The only purpose to deal in our profession is ultimately the act of faith in the future. And you have to be strong, logical, coherent belief system that you need to have. that what you are doing is going to make good for the clients in the future and for yourself also. So we can achieve our dreams once we become confident enough to set our own definition of success to the world and convince them that your path is different from them.
Fantastic. And having known you for, and I think, we have been knowing each other for almost 14, 15 years now, and every word you speak describes you, what I have seen in you over the last 15 years, and I can relate it so very much. So, हम लोग थोड़ा हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स करेंगे, and it's very challenging to speak one language because in India, some people do not understand Hindi, and most of us do understand Hindi. So we'll try to mix
so
and match.
Maybe I'll add in Hindi too, saying that
once in a while, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Perfectly fine. Okay. So Roopa, how did you come into this mutual fund distribution business? Was this the starting point in your career, or how did it shape up? What is a conscious choice or a default option? How did you become
I can tell you it was not a conscious choice. हमने कभी ड्रीम में भी नहीं सोचा था कि हमको म्यूचुअल फंड बिजनेस में आना है या समथिंग. Everybody knows I was working around, say, almost 18, 20 years back. And one day I decided saying that I don't want to be working because I had my difference of opinion and all. So I came back home. But during that period, I was, in my earlier career, I was handling few clients of mine whose wealth I was managing for the last few years. And I just came back home and I had not decided what I had to do. So my client, one of my client was the instrumental person for me to start this practice, and I came into this practice. Bridget, you have no idea. When I came back home and she told me to come and meet her, and so when I met and she said, what is that you have in mind? So I said, I don't know. She said, what do you want to do? I said, I'll think about it in the next few months, what I want to do. And the first thing that she said to me was that I should start on my own. And I was like, what are you talking? I said, you've gone mad. That was my reaction to her. I said, you've gone mad that I can start on my own. I said, I don't have the ability and the capability to start. I said, I don't have the front office, back office idea. I have no idea. Okay. But then she kept on saying, and we argued for 3.5, 4 hours. I was saying no. And she was giving me justifications about what it was. And at the end of it, she got so annoyed. And she said, I want you to start on your own. And there was one statement that she made, Brijesh, which was, we need people like you to take care of us and take care of our money. And she drew a check of 3 lakhs of rupees, I remember, and she gave me and said that go and empanel yourself. And I asked her, I said, how will I get new clients? I have no idea to get new clients. And she said, don't worry, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And with that check, I went and got myself empaneled. And I started I remember it was 5th of February, 2003. And that's what my journey is. And next day morning when I went to her and she gave me some few names. These are my friends. Go and meet them. It is your ability to convert them and to make your clients, and then the world is yours. I think that was my journey, and I'm indebted to her that she brought me into this. And
are you giving some trail to her?
Sorry?
Are you passing some trail to her for bringing
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. And I think she believed in me more than I believed in myself, Brijesh. I think that comes in because I think my relationship with her, with the way I worked and way she saw into me, is what changed. And she was my client till the end. I lost her in 2015, and but I am indebted to her every day morning. I'm indebted to her.
I'm sure, and my reason of asking, sharing is that she was the person who brought you into this business, and today whoever you are, I think a part of it is because of her. And so, and we are also thankful to that lady for bringing you in this business so that we can interact with you.
And it has been a journey from there on, saying that what has shaped and what has come in. But I think she was one of the most instrumental person. I don't think otherwise I would have ever started on my own.
Brilliant. And that difference of opinion because of which you left your job was really good, because now you are probably at a much...
Yeah. It's like, when you're at the hindsight, it's like looking at the market and feeling, saying that at the hindsight, I wish I would have done that. It's the same way with your career also, it happens.
All right. So I want to go a little more deeper into your past. And I want to ask you this, that about your upbringing. I heard you share some story on this when you were in Calcutta a few years ago, and it was really inspiring. And I thought I will ask you again this question, that how did you, your early life as a student, as in your job, as well as your relationship with your father, and his influence on you on carving out your own life?
So, Brijesh, my father I am because of what my father brought me up today. Okay. I think my father was a man of very few words, and he didn't talk much around with people. But in spite of that, I have seen him saying that his influence has left a lot of positive impact into a lot of people around him when he was there. And he was absolutely selfless in his service, what he was giving to people, what he was giving back. And as I am brought up in Ahmedabad. My father was a textile man way back in 70s, 80s, when the textile industry was doing very well. And as a growing child, I only saw that a lot of young graduates used to come to my house. And my father used to be writing letters. He would interview them, write them letters. And then I've seen those boys creating careers for themselves. I would see them in the cycle, then the scooter, and then a car, and over the period. So for me, as I was growing up, when I was a child, these guys will come, your dad will write a letter, and people will grow in their career. So it was built in, saying that if my father has done for all of these people who came in, he will also do it for me as a daughter. So I remember I graduated early. And so I remember when I was, I think, 16, 17, one Sunday I asked him and told him, saying that, Dad, please write a letter for me. I also want to start working. And there was a pin of silence for around 10, 15 minutes. And he didn't say anything. And he closed the Times of India paper and put it on the center table and told me, I buy a 2 rupee newspaper here. And you can apply from here. And he said, my responsibility is over, because those days Gujarat University used to be free education for girl child. So we used to pay some 36 rupees for our graduation for 3 years, and the fees was over. So my father said, I've paid all your fees and all, so fend for yourself. That was his word. So I was like devastated when he said that. And so I ran to my mother. So my mother said, this is between the father and the daughter. Don't bring the mother in between. And Brijesh, I had nowhere to go. Okay. And I think that was my turning point of my life, that I realized, saying that I can't go to anyone else and I have to fend for myself. And that is how I started working at the age of 16. And,
unbelievable. So crisis turned into opportunity.
Yeah. So I started working at the age of 16. And I think never depended on my father, never asked a penny with him, because for 2 years I didn't speak to my father. मैंने 2 साल मेरे पापा से बात नहीं की है, एक्सेप्ट मोनोलॉग में बात की होगी, बट कभी बात नहीं की है, क्योंकि बहुत गहरा चोट पहुंचा था, जबकि आप दुनिया के लिए करते हो और हमारे लिए नहीं करते हो. So I think that was a hurt feeling. But after a few years, I realized, saying that what he taught me was how to speak up for myself, to believe in myself.
And eventually he became so proud of you.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, Brijesh, there's so many things that event brought me, saying that how to stand up for others, how to face your fears, because he will not always be there to pick me up when I fall, or comfort me when I cry, or be there to scare away nightmares. I think also taught me to serve others without any expectation. Okay. Also to tell me, saying that how to work without expectation. I'll give you one small incident. Okay. I used to drive I used to drive. Okay, when I used to drive, I met with an accident. My car met with an accident. So every Sunday when I used to take the car from me to meet my clients, he I used to had to fill the petrol and give it back to him. There was no free lunch. So if I took a car, so every those days 10 rupees was the petrol bills. He used to I had to pay 100 rupees petrol, and then I had to give the car back to him every Sunday. I met with an accident one weekend, and he spent some 600 rupees. But he was very, he didn't, he, when I brought back the car, he was very calm. He says, I hope you've not got hurt. I said, no. He repaired the car, gave me the bill, and he said, you have to compensate back for this cost. So I used to pay EMI. I paid 100 rupees every month for 6-8 months to pay off that car accident. So what he showed me was saying that you have to stick to your promise and stick to your commitments. So each of this learnings has brought me, and at the end I learned how important is financial independence and how to value myself. And I think these are one of the greatest lessons that he brought me, without teaching me, without saying a single word. Okay. And Brijesh, I learned this, saying that if you put hard work in all the things that you do, a lot of great opportunity will flow in, and that will lead you to your success, and nothing can stop you.
Correct. I think, when you're sharing all this, now I can visualize your personality even more. And when I see Roopa, and you have access to all the top management of the AMC industry, right from the MDs to everyone, and you are in Bombay, and everyone fears you. And now I understand why they fear Roopa, because Roopa talks absolutely straight, sensible, and she doesn't fear anything. She hit the hammer on the nail, and it comes from your background of that experience from your father maybe, and all these ethics which you have which has been ingrained in your blood over the years is now talking. And when Rupa talks, nobody speaks. So how do you manage this in front of this AMC fraternity? Because you may not be knowing, but we are when we talk to the AMC guys and they say, oh Rupa, I mean uski baat mat karo, usse dar lagta hai, ऐसा क्या करते हैं आप?
I don't know, Brijesh, but kya hai ki, at the end of it, I'm very process driven. I get into the logic of it very, very clearly. And if you get into the logic and if your process is clear about what you want to do, then your clarity of communication becomes very different, correct? And that's what, and I think when you started, I think Brijesh, you also started in 2002, 2003. Today we have social media that we can write everything on social media and WhatsApp and ask everybody. But if you ask me, today, so we had to learn everything from the scratch when 2 decades back, when mutual fund industry started. We didn't even know, I think, हफ्ते भर के बाद तो मालूम पड़ता था saying that कि 10-year bond क्या हुआ है. Correct? We used to get the NAVs on a half a paper once a week. On a Sunday, we used to get that. Saturday or Sunday, we used to get that, and we used to see the NAVs. I think we have gone through all those processes, and nothing was as systematic, process driven that we are seeing it today. So when you have to give that efficiency to your client, when the client is expecting out of you, you start believing in yourself and you set the processes for yourself. And I think processes is what was important, saying that you, so if you go and ask a question, you have prepared yourself to ask that question. So I think one of the reason is because you're aware and your question is straight. So if somebody doesn't have an answer and if he says he's fearing, then it's a very different thing which I can't answer.
I can understand. So Rupa, you have been, of course, you have a large asset and there is asset allocation too, but you started off with a very strong proposition of equity investment. You're a believer in equity investment. And as I understand in various discussions with you, some of your clients, in fact, many of your clients have never sold what they have bought through you. How do you keep such high conviction in equity? And how do you convince your clients never to sell equity funds?
Yeah, very good question. But I think way back in 2000 when I was working, okay, in the NBFCs and all, I've learned saying that equity is the only asset class which can create wealth. Okay. Uh, Now, if you ask me, I didn't read books or anything like that. But when you see, like, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala creating wealth, when you hear Ramdev talking, when you think Ramesh Damani talking on television and how they talk. So this was my initial years of hearing and understanding, saying that how important was equities, correct? Then over the period, if you remember early years of our life, when equity fund managers used to come and talk about investments, growth, compounding. Okay. I think I started believing, saying that equity is the only asset class which can create wealth for people. Okay. Which can create wealth more above inflation. That was important. And I think compounding became the cornerstone of my philosophy of investment for all my clients. I think that was my cornerstone, saying that compounding is something that I have to bring in everybody's portfolio, because I believed in that compounding factor. Over the years, which also I realized when I used to go and meet clients in early 2000, whereas nobody had equity into their portfolio, okay, except for a few percentage of people who had inherited shares and somebody was actually buying. But why? Maybe because in late 90s and early 2000, the interest rates in the banks were at 14% and 12%, and corporate were giving 14%. Obviously, there was so much of comfort in clients then when you meet, because they all came with their fixed deposit where they were earning 12 and 14%. And by 2002, when the interest rates were falling, I think people were finding it difficult, saying that, oh, the interest rates have fallen by 5%, 4%. So that's where I realized, saying that none of them have equity into their portfolio. And in the longer run, they are going to face difficulty for sustaining themselves. Okay. Brijesh, I'm articulating very well today, but तभी मेरे को समझने में बहुत टाइम लगा था और बहुत होमवर्क करना पड़ता था, सेइंग दैट कि इसको किस तरह से क्लाइंट के पास जाके मैं बताऊं और ये कैसे आर्टिकुलेट करूं, कैसे बताऊं. सो आई यूज्ड टू डू गो एज अ लेमैन्स लैंग्वेज के वेरी सिंपली बताती थी. बट मैंने एक देखा था कि अगर आपके पास कन्विक्शन है, विच मीन्स हमारे पास कन्विक्शन है और हम क्या क्लाइंट को बोलते हैं ना, क्लाइंट बिलीव करता है. ओके. बट इफ यू गो टू अ क्लाइंट और अगर आप डगमगा जाते हो ना, तो क्लाइंट फिर देन ही स्टार्ट शेकिंग. वो शेक करने लगता है कि बस ये भी डर गया है तो मैं भी निकाल ही देता हूँ पैसा. बट अपना जो बिलीफ सिस्टम है ना, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होना चाहिए. एंड one thing which is very important that all of us need to communicate to a client is saying that equity is not risky at all.
Okay.
Equity is riskier in the shorter period of time. Equity is never risky in the longer period of time. I think that's one thing that I've realized and I've learned. The real long-term risk of equities is not owning them.
Correct. We all know it, but yeah.
The question is, the greatest long-term financial risk isn't loss of principal. I will repeat this. The greatest long-term financial risk isn't loss of principal, but erosion of purchasing power. Correct? I think if we understand that and if we are able to communicate that to the client, I think we will have done up almost 80% of a job. But it's about, पहले तो हमको convince होना चाहिए ना कि purchasing power क्या है. Correct? The only definition of money is purchasing power. तो ये बेसिक फंडा मेरे को समझ गया था बहुत पहले से कि ये परचेजिंग पावर और ये मनी है. और द ग्रेटेस्ट लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंशियल रिस्क क्लाइंट के पास इक्विटी नहीं होना है, rather than having it and not going through volatility. So in the last 20 years, initially in the last 10 years, it took a lot of grit and to believe in yourself. मेरे को मालूम है 2006 में जब मार्केट वॉलेटाइल हुआ था काफी, I was shaken. And it took me a lot of time to go to a lot of fund managers to sit and understand, to reinforce. Correct? और ये reinforce क्यों बात करती हूँ मैं बताती हूँ. हम ट्यूशन स्कूल जाते हैं तो ट्यूशन पढ़ते हैं, हम क्लास में पढ़ते हैं, but to reinforce we go to a tuition teacher, right? To get ourselves little more to get in clarity and all. उसी तरह से I used to go to the fund managers, people who are there in the market, talk to friends to reinforce my belief, saying that मेरी सोच सही है ना. So I think over the period I've evolved and I've believed. And Brijesh, if you are confident, you have the conviction and you believe in the future, I think your clients also will believe in the future.
Fantastic. Roopa, you know, a lot of us understand the power of equity, but as you rightly said, understanding is not enough. You have to do it in your own portfolio first, and then you have to have the ability to convince the client with authority, with power and force that, you know, equity is the best asset class. And I think there काफी म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर अटक जाते हैं, क्लाइंट को कन्विंस नहीं कर पाते, उनको खुद डर लगता है कि इक्विटी गिर जाएगा तो क्लाइंट को कैसे जवाब देंगे, और वहां प्रॉब्लम आती है कि वो चर्निंग होती है शॉर्ट टर्म थॉट्स के हिसाब से और वहां वेल्थ क्रिएट नहीं होती है. सो आई थिंक यू नो खुद का पोर्टफोलियो को अगर हम नहीं बेच रहे हैं तो हमें क्लाइंट का पोर्टफोलियो को नहीं बेचना है. सो वो कहते हैं ना, चैरिटी स्टार्ट्स एट होम, बिगिंस एट होम. सो वी हैव टू फोकस ऑन आवर ओन belief in equity, isn't it?
So Brijesh, very simple. What I've learned is saying that, you know, investors को inoculate करना चाहिए. Okay, वो किस तरह से saying that कि अभी तो अपने पास history है. We have had seen 4 major corrections, correct? अगर हम उसको लेके हम एक डिवाइस करते हैं कि किस तरह से मार्केट ऊपर उठी नीचे उठी in the last 20 years, कि 3 बार मार्केट 50% से ज्यादा गिर चुकी है. There have been 6-7 times market 20% से ज्यादा गिर चुकी है. And I think we have in history. If you have that relevant data and you actually build in your conviction and go and show to the clients, in fact, the funds where you have invested, if you go and look back the history, how the NAV has fallen, when it fell 50%, when it fell 20%, if you have that journey and if you're actually going and talking to the client, actually वो एक drill है. अगर वो ड्रिल हम कॉन्स्टेंटली करें कस्टमर्स के साथ तो कस्टमर्स के माइंड में बैठता है, बट वो हमको टेम्परामेंटली करना चाहिए. ओके, वेरी सिंपल मैं आपको बोलती हूँ कि टेम्परामेंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है इसमें. ईच डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, ऑल ऑफ अस आर वेरी डिफरेंट इन आवर टेम्परामेंट, करेक्ट? We think differently, we have certain belief systems, and as per your belief systems is what you believe that you will show it in front of your clients, correct? Each of us are different. All of us went to school and we have given exams, 10th standard, 12th standard, but all of our method of studying was different. Some studied in the night, some studied in the morning, some had to study for 1 hour, some had to study for 6 hours, correct? Each of our process of getting prepared for that examination was different.
Correct.
All of us need to understand what is it that we have to prepare ourselves and how different we are temperamentally to go and be effective with our clients.
Right. So, how many families, if you want to talk about it, how many families you handle?
I think as of today, I handle around 480 families.
So, friends, why I ask this question from Roopa is that many MFDs think that to grow in this business, you need 500,000, 2,000, 5,000 clients. And Roopa is in the top 5, top 10 in the country as an individual. And she handles 480 over the last 18 years. So you don't need 500,000, 2,000 clients. Maybe 200, 300, 400 is good enough. So it is not necessary. And that is why I wanted to ask you this question. And many people will ask you. So I want to ask you, you know, you are among the top in the country and still you decided to merge with Sapient. Many of the MFDs ask this question, what is the right time to merge, whether we should merge or not, and why these big people are also even merging, like you, Dhruv, Pallav, and all those people have merged. So briefly, can you share your idea of why did you merge when you are yourself one of the largest distributors? And why some of the MFDs at 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 crores are apprehensive about merging, that brand chala jayega, control chala jayega. So how will you address this?
Brijesh, I think times are changing. Okay. It will cost you too much if you don't change. That's what I believe. Correct. It's not that I could have been alone and I could have managed on my own. Uh, but somewhere I realized saying that as the dynamics of the markets are changing and we have different, as we have different clienteles, हमारे clients different हैं, different lot of clients हमारे HNI हो गए हैं, super HNI हो गए in the last 10-20 years. We have smaller clients also uh, who want to become HNIs in the next few years. सबके needs अलग हैं, dynamism अलग है, effectiveness of communication change हो गया है. In the last one decade, what has happened is communication through social media, things are changing. Correct? The information is getting disseminated very faster. You have to be very, very agile. I think agility is one thing, which is the most important thing that we all have to change in our practice. And as an individual, I don't think I had that capacity to do that. Okay. And at some point of time, I realized saying that I am alone. And if something happens to me too, I can't orphan my clients. And that's also because of I wanted to look at succession planning. I need to give quality value services to my clients by giving them options. Okay. See, till today, what we are talking about is about you and me, that what we want in our business, right? This is that AUM I want in the business. This is what I want to grow in the business. But we never think about what is it the client wants. Correct? So the most important thing, we have to give a basket of things to the client for the client to choose what he wants. Correct? And times have changed, saying that now the client desires what he wants. We need to listen to him. We have to give him different options. Correct? And that's what made me think and say that unless and until I don't merge, I think I won't be able to scale up. I won't be able to give real quality value add to my clients. I'm not even talking about the new clients. I'm talking about the existing clients. Okay. So that was one of the reasons why I actually thought about merging. And this is my belief. It is not about me. It's not about me. I am nothing without my clients. If they don't trust me and if I don't have an AUM, I'm nothing in this place. So for me, whatever I am is because of my clients, and I'm indebted to them that I have to give them that quality service and that quality that I need to bring in. And that is why one of the reasons which I wanted to merge. Second was succession planning. And third was, I think, first, when you think about merging, people think. So I think one thing which was important is about trust. And I think I and Dhruv knew each other for a long period of time. We trusted each other, and we are very different temperaments, but we knew we will complement each other. And at the end of it, mutual respect, which is important. And then when we merged with Sapient, I think they are good people. I think that's the first criteria that we need to look at. And if you have good people, and I think when you work with good people, I think good things happen.
Very nice, very nicely put. And congratulations that Sapient is doing wonderfully well. They have created a niche for themselves, a big brand in India. And I think with all of you working together now, it's only a matter of time that Sapient will become even larger and larger. So all the very best to your team. So Roopa, I want to now, kind of ask you a very personal question. And since I'm privy to this, since I'm aware of this, so I will take this opportunity to ask this question. And you went through a personal loss a few years ago. Your only son, Varun, you lost him at a young age of 2021. And we all go through some challenges in life, but this is something, which is very, very difficult to overcome. And how did this event affect you personally and professionally? And I know it's maybe a tough question for you to answer, but I want our audience to know who Roopa is. And they may have seen one side of your life in terms of your AUM and your business, but everybody goes through this personal challenges and stuff like this, and nothing bigger than what you went through. And still, every time I have interacted with you, you have never shown any weakness in public at any point of time, and you have always been very, very strong and energetic and smiling. How did you find this courage, and what is your message to fellow MFDs to deal with life uncertainties?
Brijesh, it was one of the most challenging periods of my life in 2015. My life turned upside down one fine day. I think my whole purpose of my life became zero, because all through your life as parents, all of us go through is our life revolves around our children, because we want to educate them, we want to see them. And I realized one fine day I had no purpose in life, and it was devastating. And but during that period, what I realized is my clients were one of the biggest supports, that they were there with me. My friends in the industry were like, they were rock solid with me, and they were like my backbone. I would not have survived without them. And I think the lesson that went through my mind over a period is also because, Brijesh, I will go back and say that I'm a Tambram. I'm a South Indian, brought up in a very traditional family. So we're very religious. We've taught, I've grown with my grandmothers and grandfathers. So obviously a lot of things which they teach us about Ramayana, Mahabharata and all those things, it becomes a story for us when we are young. Okay. But as age grows by, those stories have some reason which gives you the background of your, which is called as destiny, your fate, all that starts building into your mind. And I think the biggest lesson that I taught over that period was what my father taught me. There would be biggest failures. I will not be there with you. You have to fend for yourself. I think somewhere my father had this, and that strength that he brought into me 25, 30, 40 years ago gave me the strength to, I don't know, to withstand or not. It's not that I don't have grief. I cry, but I don't cry it in public because that's my personal grief. But what it taught me was life is going to be challenging. And one fine day I did think about it, and I thought about it to myself, and I said, God brought me here. He got me married. He gave me a child. The child gave me the designation of a mother. He lived with me. He had his journey. But I'm sure God has left me here for some purpose. And that purpose may be serving people around and giving financial stability or helping people. But I'm sure that God has left me here for some purpose. And I think that's the way I look at every morning and say that I live my life and say that, okay, let me see what is the next day. And I live by the day. But I have always been a positive person, and I've always looked at life as positive because I've seen a lot of failures in my life. I have struggled every bit of it, and I've grown up, but I have no regrets. I think that every fall has taught me to be stronger, to face challenges. Uh, I think all of us will go through certain challenges in our life. Brijesh, I have so many clients of mine, women clients who've lost their husband when they were young. They've brought it up, two kids. I think the way when you look at world, sometimes we feel that we are the only one who are suffering, but the world is suffering a lot more. Okay. I think you have to look at the positive side of it and say that what you have to give back and what is it that you can bring in. So I look at life in a different way. It's not that I have no grief. I still have the grief, but your purpose of life has to be defined and say that I have to look forward to it.
Rupa, I must tell you this, that many of the distributors don't know this side of yours, and I wanted to give them this view that, challenges are not only in their life, everybody face, and some of the most successful people have it. I may not have told you personally many times, but I'm one of your biggest fan, and you are one of the For me, or for many others who are in the industry,
I
audience today.
you you made my day today, Brijesh. I'm absolutely touched when you said that.
No, I'm very serious when I say this, and I always look upon you. You know, whenever whenever I go through some sort of crisis, and there are some people whom you start thinking how they would have managed this, and Rupa is a name which comes and strikes my mind that how would Rupa respond to this, having gone through so much in life, and you get an instant energy kind of thing. So I'm very serious when I say this. Uh, so. All right, so we will move ahead, and let me ask you. You know, you give a lot of time to FIFA, Foundation of Independent Financial Advisor. Of course, the name will go for a change. Uh, and in spite of you being one of the largest, again, I want to give this message to MFDs and have your answer on this. That some of the MFDs are full-time engaged in this distribution, and they always worry about time, and they always complain that they don't have time to do anything else in life. And here is Rupa, who is doing so many programs across the country for MFDs, who is giving immense number of hours every day, week to FIFA to develop the community at large. How do you find so much time, and what is your inspiration? Why do you work so hard for FIFA?
Brijesh, very difficult question. I think nobody has asked me this question earlier, and I've never thought about it. But I think somewhere, uh, as I said, that two decades back when we started, correct? Things were so, we were very small, nascent industry, and we had really had tough times then to actually consolidate things, to learn. And I think and when in 2008-9, when FIFA was getting formed and we were discussing, and then 2012 when it formed, I think somewhere down the line, a purpose in myself was growing up saying that we need to give back to society. Okay. And we need to give back to society in the sense our fellow IFAs, and said that what we have learned and what we have evolved, we need to share, because whatever we went through in the earlier part of your life, struggling for everything, I don't think they need to go through that part of it, and to give back. And I think one of the vehicles that I found was FIFA, was one of the platforms that we could share and do things. And I think it is one of the biggest thing that all of us need to understand, that people look at it as a business, people look at it as a saying that, "Oh, what is in for you?" It is nothing in for you, correct? It's all about saying that how much value add that you can bring in into someone's business, somebody practice or something. uh, when you say that how do you allocate so much of time, I'm pretty much organized myself, because from the time that I have been on my own from 16 years, I had to be doing everything myself. So I am a very, very organized person. I write diaries. I am very meticulous about my timing. I am very scheduled, saying that what time, how much I have to do for my work, how much I have to do for my uh, for FIFA, how much I have to spend for my family. I think it's all written down very, very clearly how much time. I stick to that. And I think there is nothing in this world which is impossible. Okay, at least I don't believe it, anything is impossible. Everything is possible if you're focused, determined, and you have a process and a plan to it. Nothing in this world can stop you, and you will have all the time in the world.
Thank you so much, FIFA. And to the audience, I want to tell you that a lot which has happened on the positive side in terms of the expense ratio discussions, the trail commissions, the new regulations. Although it is very difficult to prove, it is very difficult to put it in writing, but a lot of these positive developments which has happened, or should I say, there are a lot more damaging it could have been in our business had FIFA not been there and had Rupa not been there.
Oh,
So,
Brijesh, I'm just a minuscule, but there are a lot, many people
yeah,
in
I know.
FIFA who
So,
have contributed a
I
lot
know. So,
more. And
yes, of
I have to
course.
tell you, saying that maybe I come and talk and I am the face and people recognize me, but there are a lot of people behind the scene who are
Yes.
working like really, really much more than what I do. So we all have to be indebted to them, saying that the kind of work and the efforts that they put in.
Oh, of course, yes. So I'm aware of that fact, and since we are talking to you, I want to make a special
Thank you.
mention of you. And so please become a member of FIFA. I am a member of FIFA. I'm a founder director of FIFA, and I insist and I urge all of you to become a member of FIFA. It will strengthen our cause for the industry. It doesn't cost much. So, Roopa, I have 2-3 more questions, and then we will have some questions from the participants in the next 5-10 minutes. Very quickly, can you tell me what is your vision going forward, and what you think is the future of MFD business in India after the new regulations?
I am extremely bullish. Okay. If you're focused, you can grow 5 times from here in 5 years.
Brilliant.
Okay. I think there is a huge opportunity for us to grow. Okay. There are so many sick people, financially sick people in this country and in and around us, that we can grow. If we are determined and focused, we can go 5 times from here. Correct? And regulations are a part of our process. वो डायनामिज्म जैसे मार्केट ऊपर नीचे जाता है, मार्केट ऊपर नीचे वॉलेटाइल रहता है, उसी तरह से हमारा जो रेगुलेशन है वो आता रहेगा. आगे पीछे भी बहुत आए हैं, आगे भी आएंगे, बट उससे हमारा जो डिटर्मिनेशन है वो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला है. हमको हमारा काम करना है. एट द एंड ऑफ इट ये रिलेशनशिप आपका और आपके क्लाइंट के बीच में का है कि आपने कितना फर्क किया आपके क्लाइंट के लाइफ में. बराबर, उस क्लाइंट के लाइफ में अगर आपने सिग्निफिकेंटली उनके फाइनेंशियल लाइफ को चेंज किया है, तो वो क्लाइंट आपका इंडेटेड फॉर योर लाइफ है. ही विल बी देयर फॉर योर लाइफ. ही विल स्टैंड बाय यू टुडे. if he's paying commission, tomorrow if he's going to pay a fees, he will do everything till the time you have made a significant impact on his life. I think, and so many people are there. कितने सारे इंडिया में हैं जो फाइनेंशियली समझ ही नहीं है कि फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस क्या है, फाइनेंशियल सिक्योरिटी क्या है. उनको विजन ही नहीं है कि हमको कितने पैसे चाहिए होंगे हम जब रिटायर होंगे. जो कि इस कंट्री में ना फाइनेंशियल सिक्योरिटी है, ना सोशल सिक्योरिटी है, ना हमको गवर्नमेंट ना मेडिकल फैसिलिटी देती है. ऐसे कंट्री में हर आदमी को सेव करना है, हर आदमी को. और हमारे 5% पेनिट्रेशन है. वी आर 5% पेनिट्रेशन एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सेइंग दैट कि आवर बिजनेस, वी डोंट हैव बिजनेस. आई थिंक प्रॉब्लम हमारे में हमको दिख नहीं रहे. एंड आई एम एक्सट्रीमली bullish. Only thing is, be confident, get your knowledge, get your conviction to see that how you can face challenges and how you can grow. Because, Brijesh, please understand, there are so many people, even after all the challenges in the last 2 decades, have grown their practice by leaps and bounds.
Yes.
Okay. The most important thing is to believe, the determination that you should have about what is that you want to become at the end of 5 and 10 years. You asked me about saying that about my future success and all those things. I make a plan for the 10-year plan and 15-year plan about my business and my practice. That's the way I look at practice. Because if you are not creating wealth for your client, you will never be able to create an AUM for yourself. And compounding machine is, if your client's wealth compound, your AUM will compound. There is a direct correlation between that. And you can't have saying that कि अच्छा इस साल में 100 करोड़ करूंगा, दूसरे साल, ऐसे होगा ही नहीं. Okay, होगा 1-2 साल, but sustainability की problem होगी. It's very important to have a plan of 5-10 years. I think yesterday's budget, and if you hear everybody on the television, what it says is saying that it's going to be growth India. The world is talking about us, और हम डर रहे हैं कि हमारा growth होगा कि नहीं. It's irony.
You know, Roopa, you cannot hide your emotions. You cannot hide your passion and force with which you communicate, and the belief that you have, and it is so infectious. And I think many of the distributors will be very inspired. And I will close this with one last question, and then I will ask questions from the participant side. Roopa, being a woman, how does it feel in a country like India to have broken the glass ceiling? And what will be your message specifically to our women audience today who are mutual fund distributors? And we have very few women MFDs in the country, and you are one of them right at the top. So, to the budding MFDs, all of us, as well as especially for women MFDs who are watching this show, what will be your message to them, and how does it feel to reach the highest level of the business that you work in?
So it's all in the mind, Brijesh. Okay, women, men, it's all in the mind. It's all depends upon all your upbringing and the way you are brought up, and the way you are thrown into. Imagine in 1984, 85, if my father at the age of 16, and that too I'm brought up in a conservative family, like a South Indian family, tells me to go and fend for myself. I think it's all about your upbringing and the confidence that you get.
Absolutely.
Okay? Second, हम खुद को inferior बहुत समझते हैं. We don't believe in ourselves. Correct? वो एक I don't know, because हम लोग वो colonial Britishers जमाने से ऐसे लगता है हम capable नहीं है, हमको somebody has to, somewhere something is there. But I think that has to change. Okay? And the belief is you need to talk. Okay, Brijesh, I live with my in-laws. I have a very good relationship with them. I lived in a joint family. I've got family. I did everything. I had to cook, mop, everything. But at the end of it, I was very clear about what I wanted to do, and I was sitting and communicating with my clients, with my family, my husband, or what my in-laws, or my parents, or any of my family, what I wanted to do. Correct? Nobody stops you from doing anything, but you have to prove yourself that you are capable. Correct? There could be challenges, yeah. There could be hazard challenges that people will come and tell you. The society will reprimand you. The society will tell you so many things. I don't care. I live for myself, and I have to believe in myself. Correct? Today, what are we teaching our daughters? We educate all our daughters, but we don't give them the confidence and the grit. I think what is important to teach our daughters is to face the consequences and say that stand on your own, be financially independent. हम लोग पैसे की बात बच्चों से करते ही नहीं है. I think we need to talk about do you know, I forgot to tell you, do you know what age my father sent me to a bank? Guess. I was depositing check and withdrawing money at the age of 10. He used to give me a check of 50 rupees to withdraw from the bank, and my mother used to get hyper, okay, that this girl will lose the money. And this is the conversation, my father writing a check and my mother saying that this girl will lose that 50 rupees. This was way back in 1970s, right? Now, that is somewhere stuck into my mind. My mother says I will lose the money. So I had to prove that I will not lose the money, correct? I used to go to the bank. I could not even reach the teller to collect that coin because wo number aata tha na. But my father used to take me to the bank to teach me how to deposit a check and withdraw the check. मुझे काउंटर पे टेलर पे वो चेक देने के बाद दिखाई नहीं देता था वो कैशियर. फिर वो है ना नंबर आता था, फ्लैश होता था, and I used to sit, you know. And वो 50 रुपए जो बैंक से लेके मैं घर पे पहुंचती थी, ऐसा लगता था कि मैं है ना कुछ करोड़ों का डायमंड लेके घूम रही हूँ, because I had to prove myself. But what it teaches you is saying that to be responsible. Correct? Do we give that empowerment? There are so many men here. Do we give the empowerment to the wives? Do we allow them to manage money on their own? Correct? Because women are I'm sorry, I don't want to sound feminist, but let's understand saying that women are the biggest, best finance managers here.
Yes, they are.
Because the inflation hits them the first in the household through milk prices and everything. And they know exactly how life is. But do we understand? So for me, women, men is all in the mind. I think equality is something which is there. We create it in our mind and we have to stand for ourselves. If you don't stand for yourself, nobody is going to come and stand for yourself in this.
Absolutely. Group. Absolutely. And I think, it makes, and I want to give this message to our women participant today that, you have to take your place. You have to come forward and demand it. You have to prove yourself and and be the rightful owner of what you want to achieve in life. And there is always scope, and Rupa is a living example that how you can come forward and become one of the best. So there's nothing stopping you. You have to come forward, and this business is fantastic. Doesn't matter where you stay and which city you are, and what kind of AUM you have today. And I have so many women friends all across the country who are doing fantastic in this particular business. And so, Rupa, thank you so much for these kind words and encouragement to our participant. And I think, I will stop here. It's almost been 50 minutes, and I will now ask you some of the questions, and you can also pick up some of the questions on the chat box. And there are some people who have raised their hand. I will allow them also. One of the questions Nina is asking, are you MFD or RIA? I think, you're the best person to answer that quickly.
So the question is, I am an MFD, but because I joined Sapient, and Sapient also has an advisory platform. So obviously, if a client wants, we could be able to, but I am an MFD.
All right. Nina is asking, Rupa, two questions. Do you do only mutual funds or other products as well? This is the second question Nina is asking. So on an individual basis, what is the composition of other financial products and mutual funds?
I only do mutual funds.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. There's one message from Ashwin. He's saying, Rupa is one of the best person I have ever met in my life. When I lost my child, oh my God, she was the first person out of family to whom I contacted, and word of courage Rupa ma'am gave it to me was something I will remember for my life. Ashwin has messaged this to you, Rupa.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you.
Chola is asking, what makes you a super confident lady?
Super confident lady. I don't know about super confidence, but I think Chola, more important is saying that if you're